Welcome back, and now let's get to the good stuff. We're going to start mapping a plugin. And let's just take a quick look at the main app panel while you're mapping. There's obviously a button that says mapping on and off. Plugin control, when this is on and red, it basically means that the entire application has been bypassed. So if for some reason CS control is interfering with another MIDI program or another program, this will just completely bypass the app and it will ignore all MIDI coming into it. So, but generally, you're going to want that on. Also, when the app is minimized, you'll know that it is bypassed by that red stripe on top, and you can turn it back on just by clicking it. So that's pretty handy. I'm going to turn mapping back on. I'll tell you right now, it's going to be a lot longer to explain how to map plugins than it is to actually do it. So I'm just going to explain step by step what is going on. So in order to map a plugin, you turn mapping on, and we've got some directions down here to remind you of what you have to do, but this video should cover all of that. What you do is you hover your mouse over the parameter on the plugin that you wish to map to your controller, and then turn the knob. Now, a couple of things happen here. If you look carefully, you'll see a little menu kind of pop up. And what the app is doing is that it's doing a Control Option Command click on the low gain knob here, and it's going to try to grab the name of the parameter from this menu here. For some reason, if the app tries to do that same Control Option Command click on a spot in the plugin where there either is no menu or there is no parameter, it will grab all of the automatable names from the plugin automation window. So I'll just give a quick demonstration of that. So when you turn it, bingo, all of the automatable parameters will pop up. But generally speaking, if you can do this and pop up that menu, the app will get the name for you. So once again, you are presented with this menu here. And some very important things to notice at the top is telling you exactly which bank you're in and what kind of a control that you're mapping. Because on a controller like this one, the buttons and the knobs are actually on the same control. And sometimes when you press down on the knob, you accidentally might turn it ever so slightly before it receives the actual click. And so if that happens, you'll notice that it will say bank 1, knob 1 instead of bank 1, button 1. So when you're doing buttons on controllers such as this, keep a close eye on what this says up here just to make sure that you're actually mapping the control that you want to map. So we've got the parameter, and the other option here is that you can clear the current control if you want to. So if you've mapped something to a knob and you just want to delete it, that's how you would do it. You would just quickly do a random mapping on that control or button and then select clear current control. So we're going to pick low band gain. Oh, I'm sorry, there's one more thing about the real long list here. SoundFlow pop-up menus such as this one are very powerful and very easy to search for things. So if I wanted to get the low band gain parameter via this menu here, you can just type in LO space GA, and that will narrow down the list considerably. And it'll be much easier to find the parameter you're looking for just by using the arrow buttons. So let's try this one more time. I know it was a very long explanation, but it's necessary. So we'll turn the knob, low band gain, and we're presented with the response menu. And the response menu is ordered from finest to coarsest here. And then there are two additional parameters called stepped slower response and knob as button trigger / RX drop down menu select. I'll explain these in just a moment, but these are the ones that you're pretty much going to be using all the time. And the response that I would choose at first would be normal. So we're going to pick normal, and now comes the next part that I need to remind you of, and that is when you map the first knob on your plugin, I always recommend that you turn the mapping off and then actually test it to make sure that it works the way you want to. Some plugins are more sensitive than others, and it would be a shame if you mapped an entire set of knobs on a plugin at normal, and then you check it out and all of a sudden you realize, oh, wait a second, that's too sensitive or it's not sensitive enough. So it's always recommended to check the first knob after you've done it. And which brings us to another point. On this panel here, there is a button here that says mapping always on when surface is expanded. And this actually works really well with the concept I just explained to you. So if you keep this on like that, if you minimize the app, then mapping mode is turned off and you can test or use the app actually. And then when you open it up again, it automatically puts you back into mapping mode. So this is really good for if you want to do a quick mapping while you're mixing. You can always have that option, mapping always on when the surface is expanded, selected on all the time. It depends upon your workflow. I personally like to keep that on when I'm mapping, so that way I can easily just switch back and forth with a keyboard command from mapping and testing. And so let's go ahead and map some more knobs here. By the way, if you have your map display open, you'll notice that as you're mapping, you will see the knobs and the button parameters mapped in real time across this display. So let's do the low band gain. We'll do that again. So we're doing bank 1, knob 2. Low mid band gain has already been selected for us. We can just hit enter. And now if you notice, normal is the default option for the response. And this will obviously make mapping the rest of the knobs a lot quicker because you don't have to scroll down somewhere down the list to assign the same response time. So normal. And I'm going to skip this band. And we're going to do this guy, the low gain, high mid band gain, normal, high, normal. And while we're at it, let's go down to the next row and I'm going to map the frequencies. Again, normal will work for pretty much everything on this plugin. And then we'll do the cues. And while we're here, let's do some buttons and let's see what happens when I press down here. Bank 1, button 1, low band enable. And you'll be usually with buttons, you'll get two options. Switch button, which is the one I would recommend that you use all the time should it come up on the menu. If not, you'll only be presented with a mouse click, but switch button is what you want to use. We'll go to the next button. And the next button. So let's minimize the app so we can actually test everything. And everything seems to be working pretty well. I can actually move multiple knobs at the same time. Oh, that one's not in. There we go. Yep, we're doing good. Excellent. So we've mapped 4 bands. Each band had 3 knobs, so we've run out of knobs on this controller. Yep, and we still have to do the input and output and filters. So let's go ahead and do those by creating a new bank. And we just add a bank here with this button, add bank. And we're going to call this in, out. And now we have a fresh new bank to program. So let's go ahead and zip through and map all these knobs. And we'll have to pick normal again. But after this, we won't have to. Let's get the phase button. Phase and burn. Let's get the high pass. Let's get the filter. Now here's where you have to pay attention to what's going on at the very top of this menu here, because I actually slightly turned the knob before the button click was registered on this controller. So I don't want to be programming knob 6. I want the button 6. So I'll try that one more time. I'll be carefully push down. There we go. And then let's see the in outs. Beautiful. And now we will minimize so we can actually check everything. Beautiful. And so now we've mapped the entire plugin. So this video has taken a little bit longer than I thought it would. So I'm going to stop here. And in the next video, I'll explain all of the other options that are here in CS Control. We'll see you there.